Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the live Q&A with me, Professor Michael Scott. It is the 26th of March. We are in week one of UK lockdown and indeed increasingly global lockdown as we all strive together to combat COVID-19. I hope you are all safe and well and that you are enjoying this time of just when everyone's just got a little bit more time on their hands, not running around like madness. So hopefully a little bit more time to do one or two of those things that you've been putting off. Maybe read that book or engage in that online class or whatever it might be. Hello, Rajruba. Hello. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in, everyone. I have been sent by my brother, no less, a great little gift to while away the apparent 3 hours I might have from Paper Landmarks, and it is a paper Parthenon that you can make out. So thank you, James, my brother, for sending this. It consists of 383 separate parts on 12 different sheets that I have to cut out, then fold, glue using tweezers where necessary to get the smaller detailed parts into place. But it will mean that if I manage to get through this, I have an entire paper Parthenon at my disposal forevermore. So thank you very much indeed, James. I look forward to getting started on that, although it might take me pretty much the entire length of the COVID-19 pandemic spread, I think, to get that thing up and running. Hello, Debbie. Hello, Glees. How are you? Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Absolutely fantastic to see you here. Tell us what you guys are doing wherever you are staying safe at home. I hope everyone, hello, Shane, how are you doing? Thank you so much for tuning in. What are you doing? How are you whiling away the extra hours and extra minutes that you might have to play with now that we are all relaxing a little bit and taking things a little bit slower? Hello, Hannah. Hello, Rosie. Hello. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in. You've just finished an afternoon of online teaching. Hello, Hannah. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in. Well done with the online teaching. A massive, massive thumbs up to all the amazing efforts that are being made, not only, of course, by all the NHS and frontline services that are helping look after people who are ill at the moment and are combating the worst of COVID-19, but also to all the teachers, and I say this as a university lecturer as well. Our university is going to be going online entirely for next term. And so we've been thinking a lot about how to be teaching online going forward. And I know school teachers across the country have been thinking the same thing. So Bertrand, bonjour. Lovely. You've been playing the guitar and drawing. Thank you so much. Yeah, well done, you. Jonathan, taking a break from marking Year 8 Latin. Good to be here. Good to see you too, Jonathan. And Helen, carrying on your ancient Greek with the OU. Oh, come on. It's not that painful. You're going to be enjoying it. It's going to be fabulous. Linda, you're trying to use everything in your cupboard, fridge, etc. from all those stashes. Debbie, you're watching Game of Thrones, okay, but going for it to walk a friend's dog sounds excellent. Be there, and as I think another good thing that might hopefully come out of this period of time is not only that we all rediscover the joys of a slightly slower pace of life, but also that we rediscover some of the joys of a greater sense of community as we move to help one another as well. Rebecca, you're keeping the 3-year-old busy by drawing on our patio with big chalk. Excellent. Also, yes, indeed, my heart goes out to everyone out there, myself included, with children who are now at home from school and trying to both work from home and keep children busy from home as well. Helen, good afternoon. Hello, Laura. Thank you so much for tuning in. Absolutely fantastic. Well, we are here to give you a little bit of a half-hour breather and break into the ancient world. That's what we're going to be doing. And we're also going to be flagging some of the great things that you can be doing with your kids as well as with your own downtime while you're here. If you're not, like me, whiling away your time with 383 separate parts on 12 different sheets of a paper Parthenon that I've got to put together. Sarah, you've been painting and writing stories for your OU Uni course. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Waves to fellow OU peeps. Yes, absolutely. Go to Open University. We're all learning from their book right now about how to communicate online. So, a couple of things to mention. Of course, we have going on the Facebook page at the moment, facebook.com/Professor Michael Scott. We have the competition. So, what classical themed GIF or meme or picture for you best sums up the situation that we are currently finding ourselves in relation to COVID-19. Thank you all for your fantastic entries so far. Keep them coming in. The deadline for closure is the 28th of March. So coming up this Saturday. Get your entries in via the Facebook page, or you can email them as well to michaelscottacademic@gmail.com. And we will be judging the best entries, Claire and I, and there will be a prize. There are prizes of signed books available to the winners, so do get involved in that. And I'm also very pleased to announce coming up that starting towards the weekend and beginning of next week, we will be launching a new quiz, a Romans-themed quiz. We've done the Greeks, we've done the Egyptians, so now let's do the Romans. We've got a Roman-themed quiz going live on the Facebook page, so you can be quizzing yourselves and your little ones with that. Good afternoon, Anthony. Good afternoon, Lorraine. Fantastic. You've started an OU course as well, Lorraine. Good luck with it. Yes, so we're going to have a Romans quiz going on the Facebook page as well, coming soon. And I wanted to come back a little bit later on and talk about some of all the other online resources that I wanted to flag to you guys, whether you're thinking about learning for yourself or whether to keep your kids happy and occupied and engaged with the Greeks and Romans as well. So we'll be coming back to have a think about that in a minute or two. But first, let's get on with some of the fantastic questions you've been sending in. Now, some of them are COVID-19 related, but we're not going to take one of those. First off, we're going to start with a question that's come in from Eugenio Geleric, who's in Verona in Italy. So our hearts and thoughts go out to everyone in Italy at the moment dealing with the really cutting edge of the COVID-19 virus. And he's asking actually about drama and democracy. So Eugenio's watched a series that we did for BBC4 a couple of years ago, about three-part about the development of theatre, particularly within the context of ancient Greece and ancient Athens, and the close link up between the development of democracy in Athens and its theatre, particularly its tragedy and its comedy. But Eugenio wants to ask about the participation of the public during theatrical representations. Did they cheer? Did they think that they were going to change the outcome? Did they insult the actors? Thank you, Eugenio, for a question. Great question. And yes, we have to completely imagine theatre in the ancient Greek world as being the opposite of the experience of going to the theatre in today's modern world in lots of different ways. So first off, it happened during the day rather than sort of we consider going to the theatre as something you do as entertainment mostly in the evening. It happened outside rather than inside, so that meant it was pure daylight in the ancient theatres, and so the audience was very visible to every other member of the audience and also to the actors on the stage. It's not like when we go to the theatre tonight and we're all put into blackness and all the lights are focused on the stage. So you have to imagine an environment happening during the day in which everyone is visible to everyone. And also this wasn't a place, even in the ancient Greek world in particular, you didn't really just go any night of the week. Right? Theatre wasn't available all the time. In the ancient Greek world, theatre was condensed, and particularly in Athens, it was condensed into major religious festivals for the god Dionysus that happened at particular times of year. Hello, Victor. Hello, Fiona. Hello, everyone. And that meant you got not just one performance, but many over several days. It was a real kind of supersize me, shot in the arm injection of theatre that lasted in March for the Great Dionysia, for example, for about 5 days. And people would be sitting in the theatre all day for at least 3 of those, watching play after play. And playwrights would be putting on 3 tragedy plays followed by a satyr play, kind of a bit of light relief play. And they would be in a competition. So, good morning, Eleni from Melbourne. I hope everything is going well. Lockdown in Australia. I don't think I'm going to be making it to Australia in May time now to join you guys out there. Very, very, very sorry about that, but stay safe out there. Thank you. Another Nicole, also from Melbourne. Gliese, a show and wine. Yes, of course, Dionysus, the god of wine as well. So people would have been going through a whole range of religious festivals and parades and processions and getting quite drunk in honour of the god before they then finally marched into the theatre to watch a play. And back to Eugenia's question about public participation. So this was a competition. Right? The playwrights were competing with one another for the prize of best playwright, which was judged officially by a committee of 10 people that were sitting in the audience, but those 10 undoubtedly would be influenced by the audience reaction that they were hearing behind them. So we have to imagine that the audience were very vocal indeed when they were watching tragedy, whether they liked it, whether they hated it, were they throwing things? Possibly. What did they pretend to change it? Did they think they were changing the outcome? Yes, I think the people very much had a sense that they were participating in helping judge the best set of plays that had been put on before them. And we are not necessarily talking about entirely professional actors. The sort of main up to 3 actors that there would have been in an ancient Greek tragedy, probably more, and increasingly over the 5th and 4th centuries, were professional actors. But the chorus, the group of people who appeared in pretty much every Greek tragedy, who were the ways in which they responded to the actions of the main actors, the chorus mostly it was a group of citizens. So you actually had citizens of the city-state of Athens on the stage as much as watching the play as well. So there was a definite relationship between the two. So I can imagine them being very engaged in trying to influence the outcome. And if they were at the comedy festival, which happened in January time, the comedy festival was where you were supposed to be laughing. Belly-aching laughter at the comedy, but the comedy was very much like Have I Got News for You or Mock the Week. It was about current political satire of current politicians often, and those politicians would also be sitting in the audience. So they had to sit there and take it well that they were being laughed at and made fun of. Very, very much indeed. Anna's asking, were women in the plays? There were absolutely female characters in the plays, but all being played by men. There were no female actresses. And whether women were actually even allowed to sit in the theatre to watch the plays is a matter of great debate. We don't have any clear evidence one way or t'other, and so scholars are completely split on whether or not women were in the theatre as well as part of this experience. So definitely, audience participation, very, very important. And if you ever get a chance to go, we will obviously get a chance to go back to Greece again when COVID-19 is over, but if you do go down to the Peloponnese and go to the ancient site of Megalopolis, it literally translates as great city. It's a kind of completely new city build construction of the 4th century BC. A little bit kind of thinking along the lines of building a Milton Keynes. What do you need in a city by this stage? Of course you need a theatre. And if you go to Megalopolis, what you see is the construction of the political assembly place actually directly in front of and connected to the theatre. So the architecture meant you had to walk through the theatre to get into the political assembly, which is a fascinating sense of how close the people building Megalopolis saw the connection between theatre and politics. You couldn't do politics without having first walked through the theatre. And just as with politics, people were supposed to get involved, so too were they supposed to get involved with the theatre. So Eugenia, thank you very much indeed for that question. Of course, I asked, where would they put the coconuts? Coconuts? I've missed out on a conversation here. I've completely lost track of this one. You're going to have to inform me what people were doing or supposedly doing with coconuts in the ancient Greek theatre. Linda Montague has asked a question about, do you think we should make some offerings to the ancient gods to help combat the coronavirus? Which one would you choose? Well, Warwick University, when it was doing the groundbreaking ceremony for the new Faculty of Arts building that it's currently building, did actually ask the classics department to come forward, and my colleague Paul Grisby, who runs with me the Warwick Classics Network, who's our outreach arm working with schools across Warwickshire and Coventry, he was asked to come forward with some of his students, so he's learning about Greek religion, Paul's teaching Greek religion this year, to come and pour libations to the Greek gods to help ensure the building's safety henceforth into the future, to make sure we have the gods on side. So we have some amazing photos of some very, very bemused construction workers who have been, I'm sure, to a million groundbreaking ceremonies into the past, but none quite like this one, where students using our replica ancient Greek kailikes, our drinking cups, poured libations of milk, honey and wine into the ground to ensure that we had the Greek gods on site. So maybe we should start thinking about something to do to try and bring coronavirus under control. Linda, would you go for Asklepios? I think that's a very sound option. And thinking back to plagues and epidemics in the past, so when Athens was beset by the plague during the Peloponnesian War, so after 431, when the Peloponnesian War broke out fully again, Athens made the decision to withdraw from the territory of Attica and to all its citizens to come within the great city walls of Athens and basically to stay safe behind the city walls. It made good strategic sense because, of course, the city was connected behind behind those city walls to its port and thus to the sea, and could bring in lots of goods and supplies. But what they hadn't counted with was the fact that many people living suddenly crunched up together in a smaller space. It was almost inevitable that plague would break out, which it did very quickly, and you ended up with a situation where perhaps half of Athens' population was decimated by plague in a short couple of years, including the death of Pericles, the great leader of Athens, and his sons. And if you want a description of the plague, which sounded much, much nastier than COVID-19, you can read Thucydides. But what happened in the direct aftermath of recovery from the plague was that Athens, in the 420s, decided for the first time to invite the god Asklepios to come in and be permanently resident in Athens. Now, amazingly, up to that point in time, Athens had not had a permanent sanctuary to the god Asklepios. He'd not been somebody that they thought they needed to particularly worship, but particularly after the plague, they felt they did. And so they established a sanctuary for him at the base of the Acropolis, so in a very important part of the city as well. And you can visit that sanctuary today. It's like a mini sort of Epidavros on a very micro scale, but it does have an abaton, a place where people would sleep overnight to supposedly hear the cures from the god. And equally, we also have inventories surviving from the sanctuary of Asklepios at the foot of the Acropolis, whereby we have inventories of all the things that were stored in the sanctuary. So we know that just like at Epidavros, people would be leaving models of the bits of their bodies that were healed by the god in thanks to the god. So you have lots of eyes and legs and genitals and arms and things, different bits of the body that have been healed in lots of different materials depending on what they could afford, and also all sorts of different offerings that they've given to the god to help. Annette goes, Apollo every time. You're saying Apollo? Well, of course, yes, you want to sort of worship to Apollo as well. Think of the Iliad, think of the plague that Apollo visits on the Greeks when they're not doing what he wants them to do at the beginning of Homer's Iliad. You could, in Athens, also go for Amphiarios, another kind of related family member of the Asklepios Apollo tribe. Amphiarios was another healing god, and sort of healing stroke oracular, kind of he did a little bit of both, so you could try out with him as well. Galicia in Brazil, we always give a drop pro santo for the saints. Yes, kind of absolutely. These things, I mean, some of the rituals, particularly of offering body parts that have been healed, supposedly with the aid of the gods, that has continued right through into the Greek Orthodox Church, and you see that still today. If you go to many Greek Orthodox churches, you'll see that offering of body parts replicated in any kind of material up to silver. So there are lots of these sorts of rituals that have continued through into modern day practicing religions as well. Sarah says, interestingly, the Chinese do something similar when they ask the gods or spirits for items they want. Absolutely. So there's kind of, it's really interesting to see how these things have been folded forward, and as these different religions were mapped onto one another, it comes back to the problem and issue that when a new religion is being introduced, how do you make it more acceptable and easy for people to take on? If you're wanting mass conversions, well, you map it as closely and easily as possible onto their current process and current activities, so that it becomes less of a leap for them to make that change. And that particularly happened with Christianity latching onto some of the key Roman festivals and times of the year, and then changing their meaning going forward. Same as in Ireland, and Irish will drink anything. Thank you, guys. Brilliant. So, Linda, thank you very much indeed for your question. Kind of anything and everything, I think, that we can do at this stage to help combat COVID-19. So we were talking a little bit about different online resources that are going to be there for you guys to have a look at while you've got a bit more downtime at home, but also to keep children occupied. So things that I would definitely recommend you have a look at. One of the things that the Warwick Classics Network is going to be doing and has been doing over the past couple of weeks is putting up a whole new series of ancient history resources that correspond to particularly the ancient history GCSE and A-level curricula. Now, obviously we know that exams have been cancelled this summer in the UK for GCSE and A-level, but it does mean that obviously that teaching, when it goes back on, particularly through term 3, is going to be wanting, I think, to push a little bit beyond just the exam syllabus and actually expand people's minds a little bit to a wider set of material. And this is where I think all these online resources will come in incredibly handy. So do go and have a look at those. That's on the Warwick Classics Network website, which is www.warwick.ac wcn, and then if you click on Stoa, you'll find a whole series of resources there, not just the ancient history ones, but also for classical civilization, those aims at Key Stage 2, Key Stage 3, and particularly a whole series of videos as well. So this is things like our Ask an Academic videos, where different members of staff at Warwick have talked on particular topics to do with the syllabus and the curricula for Class Civ and for ancient history, but also a number of other talks that we've done at particular events that we've held, like our drama festivals. You'll also be able to find links through to the drama festival page, and you can watch our performances over the past couple of years of different tragedies, ancient tragedies and comedies in English. So those are great things to be watching to keep people occupied as well. Then I would suggest also going to have a look at the Classics for All website, which were between the Warwick Classics Network and Classics for All. We're putting together a whole series of resources going forward, and there's going to be lots more coming online in the next couple of weeks to keep everyone entertained. On my website as well, michaelscottweb.com, you'll be able to see a whole series of videos of different talks that I've done over the past months and a couple of years, so you can watch some of those, as well as looking back through the Q&As that we've done. All the live Q&As are viewable to watch again, either through my website or indeed through the Facebook page, where again Claire is doing a brilliant job signposting all sorts of fantastic resources like virtual tours of museums that you can enjoy as we go forward. And of course, we now know that you can get a Parthenon in 383 separate parts on 12 different sheets to construct as well. I'll race you, any of you who want to carry on and make the Parthenon, I'll race you to make the Parthenon. Are there any resources that will help with the Imperial Image module, says Rebecca? Okay, we will look into that, absolutely. I will get back to that and have a think about that. We can do an Ask an Academic video on it as well, absolutely. We can sort of have a think about that, about the Imperial Image. We've got lots of people at Warwick that would be absolutely brilliant to speak to that. So we'll get that in the queue, Rebecca, and get that online. The other thing that you can look at are the documentaries, the TV documentaries that I've made over the past couple of years. So we've got documentaries about Delphi, about luxury in ancient Greece, about the 3-part series on the development of democracy and theatre in Athens and in Greece. We did a 2-part series, Who Were the Greeks?, looking across Greek culture more widely. And then we've done a series of Invisible City programmes as well, about Rome, Naples, Florence, Venice, Athens, Cairo, Istanbul. We did a one-off programme about underground Roman catacombs as well. Many of these are available either on BBC iPlayer or indeed they'll be available on YouTube. And I would particularly advertise, if you can, going to my YouTube channel. So if you Google YouTube Professor Michael Scott, you'll get to my YouTube channel. And we collect all the videos there that are available on YouTube, both of my lectures, but also of TV broadcasts and other live Q&As, etc. So they're all going to be there in one place. And one of the things I'd like to start experimenting with, as we've all got a bit more time, it'd be great to talk to you guys a bit more regularly while we're all sitting at home a bit more, is to do something through YouTube and YouTube Live. Now, to be able to do this through the mobile, I need at least 1,000 subscribers to my YouTube channel, and we are just below that amount at the moment. So can I ask of you all, if you have a spare moment over the next week or so, to go to YouTube, search for the Professor Michael Scott channel and to subscribe to that channel, because then we can do a great job of doing some YouTube Live videos for you as well, not just through Facebook. So lots of different places you can go. Please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do get involved in, obviously, the competition that's running until Saturday, and get involved in our Facebook quiz next week with the Romans. And so it's going to be great fun. We're going to have great fun as we go forward, going forward in this time where we've got a little bit more time on our hands, where we're hopefully all staying safe and well, and at the same time learning a lot as well. So we've got time for a couple more questions. Stefan Sverretsen has asked, as many of us are stuck at home during these times, it's important to keep calm and try to stick to the usual routine, or so I've heard. So well done, Stefan. And he's asking about, do we know anything about the normal daily routine of the average ancient Greek and Roman citizen? Brilliant question. Okay, what was a normal day like? If they weren't off fighting wars against the Persians or listening to theatre and the great theatrical festivals, what was an average day like? Well, if we take the ancient Greeks and we'd have to think about different levels of ancient Greeks, and kind of rich, middle income and poor, and obviously slave, a whole different ball game. And then also we have to think about whether we're talking about young children or adults, and also then boys or girls, because they're all going to have slightly different daily experiences. But so we imagine the morning getting up, a light breakfast, diet of the ancient Greeks, we're talking lots of cereals, vegetables, fruit, olive oil, fish occasionally later in the day. Kind of meat is more of a luxury that they're normally getting at big religious sacrifices. So we have some breakfast, and then if you are a young boy, you're going to probably of a kind of wealthy-ish citizen family, you're going to be going off to school. Right, so you will have some schooling, and you'll be doing your mathematics, you'll be doing your literacy, and then part of that also will probably have some athletics involved in the gymnasia, etc. Now, if you are a girl in Athens or in many other Greek city-states, you would be staying at home and you'd be working with your mother and other women in the home and learning the certain skills that were considered necessary for women to learn kind of within the home. If you were in Sparta, though, for instance, girls were going to school, out to school as much as the boys were, and were taught the same level of mathematics, literacy, etc., as well as doing outdoor physical exercise. So big difference if you're a boy or a girl depending on where you were within the ancient Greek world. If you were a Greek who had a trade and had to work, then obviously you'd be setting off then to work, and people would be working in a whole host of different occupations through the day. If you were a richer, aristocratic, kind of wealthy citizen, then you might not need to work. You might have a day of leisure ahead of you. And what would that be? It would be involved in going to the gymnasium. So you'd be going there to exercise, to discuss, increasingly to do a bit of philosophical discussion as well, in perhaps one of the side rooms of the gymnasium, and then you'd be chatting with people, you'd be walking in the public stoas and other places of public architecture within the city. You would be perhaps going to the assembly to do a bit of politics discussion. You might be going to do some religious stuff as well. You might be attending to particular local religious sanctuaries and religious cults that you and your family were particularly involved in. And then, of course, on particular days as well, you'd be going to the market, or people would be going to the market for you, depending on your wealth. And you would also perhaps, again, if you were interested in being an active citizen of the Athenian democracy, or indeed if you needed the money in the 4th century, you might go and sign up for jury duty. And then, of course, all this would change if there was a war on, because there was no real professional standing army. Every citizen was the warrior. So in times of war, your daily routine would change completely, and you'd be heading off to war. Now, what if there was a Roman Joe Wicks? So kind of is there someone who's going to be doing all the exercise classes for the Romans? Well, the Romans, again, is a different ballgame, but again, the same gradations apply. So depending on whether you were a poorer citizen who'd be going out necessarily having to work, and then you might be living in Rome in one of the multi-story apartment blocks that we know were built that could be up to 10 stories high, and oh by God, you did not want the penthouse in one of those. They were absolutely disgusting, rat-infested places, very, very liable to fire, where people were living in incredibly cramped conditions, all the way through to the very rich Dominus, the master of a large kind of villa home, who would be spending their morning after some breakfast being visited by his clients, people who would be lining up outside his door to come and talk to him. I don't suspect there was a kind of large exercise classes going on in the baths, but people obviously were expected to go to the baths as well, do their chatting, do their exercise, and you're quite right that you did not want to be going there with any kind of open wound. Not that the Romans understood necessarily the kind of level that we have of kind of ancient medicine, but by golly gosh, kind of people would be in that bath water with all sorts of things, and it was really only if it was really obviously grotty and pussy and oozing were you not supposed to go to the baths with it. Apart from that, everything else was fair game. So, Stefan, that gives you a certain idea of kind of what a daily routine would be, that if people were staying at home, obviously, it would be a very unusual occurrence for the ancient Greeks to be asked to stay at home. Really kind of with being in the house was something that only happened at very, very specific times. And I guess the equivalent for the ancient Greeks in particular of our current stay-at-home measures would be what is known as pollution. We were discussing this a couple of weeks ago on the Q&A, whereby the Greeks understood particular life crises, that might be birth, death, transitions in life, as to sort of that putting people outside of the normal cycle and routine of life. And the way they understood that as happening is that those people were then polluted and they had to remain under certain restrictions for that period of time when they were outside of their normal run of life. And then the rules of pollution gave them waybys of getting back into the normal routine of life. And the pollution regulations varied from city-state to city-state and for occasion to occasion, but they do sound a little bit like our social distancing and self-isolating measures. So when someone died in a household, the people who were said to be polluted by that death, it might be 1 degree, so just family, it might be family plus anyone who walked into that house at any one point in time, they all then became polluted and had to stay inside and away from religious sanctuaries for 3 days, 9 days, 10 days, after which they ritually washed themselves and then were allowed to re-enter back into society. So that concept of pollution kind of allows us to sort of, I think, map a little bit onto the self-isolation and self-distancing measures that we are being asked to undergo, not in any to enable us on a very medical and physical level, but also to a certain extent on a social and cultural level to find a pathway through this crisis. Jamie's asking, Pernell, do we know how important music performance was in Athenian society? Music is incredibly important, absolutely, it's part of everyday experience, and it's often something we find very difficult to capture because how does it survive for us in the archaeological record? We have some sense of the music that was played at particular events, whether that's the symposium or whether it's at religious festivals or indeed funerals and other experiences. We have some evidence of musical notation where it's actually been written down. We can listen to the hymns and the performances. And Armand Dangour in particular has led a great research project here in Oxford thinking about how can we actually make ancient music sound for us again. What did ancient music sound like? And you can listen to some of the ancient music that they've recreated on YouTube. So if you Google ancient Greek music, Armand Dangour, you can have a listen to that. But music, very, very important. Very, very, very much part of the experience of both religion and everyday society. Guys, it's already 4:30. We are running out of time. So we have a couple of things to say. You've had some great questions, more questions coming in. I've been asked to do end with a happy fact. Sarah Scotty was asking for the end with a happy fact. So I have one ironic fact for you to help us feel a little bit better about our lives at the moment. This one is that in Sparta, if you won at the Olympic Games, so if you were judged a sort of fantastic athlete and you were a Spartan, you went back home, and what did you get as a reward? You got the honour of being able to stand next to the Spartan king in the front line of battle at the next possible opportunity. Lucky, lucky, lucky Spartan Olympic victor. So in some ways, we're luckier than our predecessors. And then thinking about, here's a happy fact for you, that if you are thinking about longevity in life, and we all are nowadays, it turns out that one of the two of the five so-called blue zones where there is the longest life longevity anywhere in the world are right here in the Mediterranean. One is in Sardinia, and the other is the island of Icaria in Greece. Now, in Icaria in Greece, 1 in 3 people are over 90 years old, which compares to, in the United States, where less than 1% of the population makes it to over 90. So there you go. If you want to, I think we should all, once we can travel again, we should all look into how they live their lives in Sardinia and how they live their lives in Icaria in Greece, because clearly they are onto something. And if we want to think about our life longevity, then these are the places to go to. So, okay, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been fantastic to be with you all for this half hour. Stay safe, stay well, enjoy the downtime. It will end at some point and we'll all miss it, I think, then. And in the meantime, lots and lots of great resources for you to be checking in on and keeping your kids busy with. And we will be coming back again live sooner than usual. Yes, we're coming back next week. I couldn't resist to come back next week and have another chat with you as well. So Wednesday, the 1st of April, we're not going to go for a Thursday. We're going to go for Wednesday, the 1st of April, because on Thursday, I will be looking after my little one, kind of now off school, tearing around. So Wednesday, the 1st of April at 2 p.m. rather than 4 p.m. So we're changing it all up. But yes, if you can make Wednesday, the 1st of April at 2 p.m, it will be fantastic to see you. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys next week. In the meantime, stay safe. Get involved in the competition on the Facebook page for your classical GIF and meme, but also look out for the Romans quiz that's coming forward. And do please have a look at those resources. And if you've got a chance, go to the YouTube channel, the Prof Michael Scott YouTube channel, and subscribe so that we can start doing some YouTube live action as well. Look after yourselves. Have a wonderful rest of the week and the weekend. Stay safe. And just think, dream happy of Sardinia and Icaria in Greece. Take care, everyone. Bye.